We've talked about the Ninhongi before, though exclusively in the context of Ryomen Sakuna. So, just a quick summary. The Ninhongi is a book chronicling the history of Japan up until its publication, which was during the reign of Empress Gensho. The book chronicles some history, as the regions mentioned in it were indeed real, but with attribution of supernatural things and beings. See Ryomen Sakuna during the reign of Emperor Nintoku, as discussed in my video on the topic. And because of this attribution of supernatural phenomena, the book takes on a folkloric approach as well. So we're going to focus on that part, because there's several parts in the book that are like tax laws and building projects, and while that's certainly fascinating to historians, it's not what this channel was made for. So, let's dive in. Our first story takes place during the 7th scroll of the Ninhongi, during the reign of Emperor Keiko, so the year is around 93 AD, at least according to traditional accounts, and giving our protagonist, the Emperor's son, Prince Osu, or Yamato Takeru, I'll be using both throughout the video, the benefit of being a well-developed young man. Prince Osu was born the larger and more powerful of twins, and come his prime, he stood over 3 meters tall. For my fellow Americans in our freedom units, that's 9 feet tall. And the favored son of the emperor for his engagements in battle, seeing as he was possessing a warlike spirit, and that if he was not in the castle, the emperor would not have to worry about his son getting ideas of rule. Despite loving his son, he knew that the risk of a 9-foot giant in the house was always there. Okay, so what are we talking about here then? Well, it actually involves the naming of one of the sacred treasures of Japan. Because of his size and warlike disposition, Prince Osu often was sent to quell rebellions and lay low the enemies of his father, slaying the barbarians threatening the reign of the emperor. Sounds simple enough. And so he went to Suruga, which was an ancient province on the east coast of Japan, to put down a band of rebels. Unknown to him, as he got there, some rebels, seeing this literal giant arriving on their land, tried to get on his good side, so they could kill him without an outright fight, which they would certainly lose. And to do so, these disguised rebels managed to convince Yamato Takeru that there were plenty of deer in an overgrown field nearby. Looking for these deer with breath as sweet as dew and legs thick as trees, Yamato Takeru wandered into the grass field, his hand raised up looking for the deer around him, only for something to catch his ear. The sound of raging flames and the striking of a flint and the spreading of the wind. Seeing the flames coming, and where the accounts differ, in some accounts he started his own fire and escaped, but in the other, and the more popular account, Yamato Takeru, seeing the flames coming, drew the sword from the sheath at his side, and tried to cut the grass around him to stop the fuel in the fire, only to find that upon swinging the sword once, not only did it cut all of the grass, it cut the very wind itself, sending the flames chasing backwards on the rebels and killing all of them with the swing. What does that have to do with the sacred treasures of Japan, Dan? Well, Yamato Takeru, before heading to Suruga, stopped at the shrine in Ise, which is dedicated to Amaterasu, where his aunt, a priestess there, bestowed upon him the Ame no Murakumo no Tsurugi, the sword that Susanoo found in the tale of the Yamata no Orochi. I told you guys in that video that I'd get back to it, and here we are. Speaking of where we are, the Murakumo cut the grass from the fields and killed the rebels all in one go. So what did Prince Osu call it? Well, the grass cutter, or the Kusunagi. He'd then go on to kill a lot more rebels and cross an entire province by himself after climbing several mountains, killing a mountain kami on Mount Ashigara, getting cursed by another, and then dying before transforming into a divine white crane and flying off into the heavens. Maybe I should make a video about Yamato Takeru sometime in the future. Anyway, kills a god, gets cursed, becomes a bird, refuses to elaborate, and leaves. Kind of a vibe. Our next story takes us a fair bit further in time, nearly 600 years in fact, as we enter the reign of Emperor Nintoku, 1 year after the death of Ryomen Sakuna at the hands of Nanewa no Nekotake Furukuma, to the land of Kibi, which is in modern-day Gifu Prefecture. Here, reports are coming out that people crossing the Kawashima River at the point where it forks were turning up dead. It became clear that they were being killed in droves by the venom of an imposing snake that called the river home. This struck great fear in the people, because not only did it cut off access to water, it was a giant snake. Seeing this, Emperor Nintoku dispatched a warrior named Agatamori. Agatamori was among rare company, being considered brave and strong, even by the standards of the emperor. The warrior came to the fork in the river and saw no great serpent, but knew it was lingering nearby. So he filled 3 pots or gourds with water and strung them across the fork in the river. Then, sending them dangling in the wind, Agatamori puffed out his chest and laid out a challenge for the vengeful serpent of the river. "You spit venom often and harass the passers-by. I'm going to kill you. If you sink those pots, I will flee, but if you do not, I will slice up your body." The serpent, leering from beneath the waves, seeing this imposing man and hoping to avoid conflict, readied to take the challenge. It transformed into a large deer, reaching for the gourds with its antlers, readying to pull them into the depths of the water. It yanked and yanked with all its might, only to find itself stuck and exposed. Agatamori, seeing the opportunity, struck out with his blade. In an instant it was over, the snake cut apart like cloth at the edge of the sword. With that over, Agatamori took steps to see if there were more of these massive snakes. After all, where there's one, there's always more. After searching, he found it, at the bank of the river, as the current flowed, a den of serpents squirming ready to coil out and strike. And so he got to work, cutting the snakes as he had the first until the river turned red, earning that crossing in the Kawashima the name Agatamori no Fuchi. Now, I couldn't find the actual characters used, as I don't have a Japanese version of the Ninhongi, but Fuchi, these 2 characters, put together, means edge or brink, and considering it was where his sword struck snakes, calling it Agatamori no Fuchi or Agatamori's edge is probably the intention. Lastly, for today, we go a few hundred years forward again to the reign of Emperor Yoryaku, an emperor who dealt with much strife in his reign, both domestically and abroad, having to deal with 2 Korean kingdoms, but also as an emperor crossed paths with many a kami. You see, like many emperors, Yoryaku was a prodigious hunter, taking much time to hone his craft, and to move far away from his trials at the time. One such time, as he was winding at Mount Kuzuraki, scanning the plains for deer and other game to hunt, a towering figure seemed to arrive out of thin air. Tall, fit, stately. The man approached the emperor with a curious glance. From his stature alone, the emperor knew this to be a god, and one that seemed to bear the gleam of an emperor. Not being familiar with the kami, the emperor asked, who exactly was he? To which reply came, the emperor should introduce himself first. The emperor went on to say his name, Yoryaku, and the god replied in kind, Hitokotonushi no Kami. This god was a protector of the area, and one that in later myths was capable of granting wishes, so long as they were stated in a single word. And it was here, seeing each other in this field filled with game, they became fast friends, instantly hitting it off. Man, sometimes I wish it were that easy. Together they crossed the field, one chasing a deer and then the other, both deferring once to the other before continuing. Through the journey, the pair would set their bridles at the same speed, racing horses against each other. After satisfying their hunting instincts, the pair would sit and talk with each other, with great respect, akin to sages or old friends, trading stories and tales, before the emperor began on his homeward journey, to which Hitokotonushi accompanied him, over to the river Kume, after which the emperor went homeward and the god remained behind. As the emperor disappeared over the horizon and into the night, the kami said, "Yeah, he's a pretty good guy." And that's where that story ends. From divine weapons and cutting grass, to staying serpents and gaining a notoriety on the map, to becoming best bros with a god, the Ninhongi is filled with numerous supernatural stories. Of course, what would you expect from the Chronicles of Japan? As always, stay hydrated, be good people, and thanks for watching.